Alright, let me go ahead and teach a little lesson that I ended up learning when I ended up, taking sensitivity training, diversity training, all that. Alright? So, there was a hypothetical example that ended up getting used that ultimately can go ahead and teach about the understanding of consent. Alright? So, in that scenario, somebody was married, and there was somebody else who was single. Alright? Now, for years, the single person was, with the person that was married. You know, they would say, I love you to each other, knew the kids, all that stuff. Alright? So the single person ends up going to try to break up with the person that was married. So the person that was married, their response was, we were dating? Now, all right. Now we go in breaking down into ethics and understanding, okay? So, like, for example, in order to be able to secure a legal prosecution, because of the factor that no matter who you are, no matter what the circumstances are, you are supposed to have the presumption of innocence, which gets established all the time by saying that somebody is innocent until proven guilty. All right? So, if the person that was married had you under the understanding that the person that they were married to and everything, they told you that they were no longer married. They told you they were divorced. All right? They told you they were no longer with that person. Ultimately, they were just co-parenting. That there was no more romantic entanglements. There was no more sexual engagement between the two. All right? Now, if that was the circumstance, if the married person had you under that illusion, all right, technically, what they did was they coerced consent from you, all right? Coerced consent is not consent. That's the equivalent of, I'm going to keep harassing you to sleep with you until you say yes, because you just want me to stop harassing you. All right? Informed consent is, yes, I understand everything that is being established of what is okay to do, what is not okay to do, what we are agreeing to, what the outcomes of, if anything unforeseen ends up happening, coming up with a game plan of potential inevitabilities, of ramifications that could end up happening, or consequences. All right? That right there, being fully understanding. All right? That right there is informed consent. All right? So understand, if the person that was married was sleeping with you for years, all right, they were dating you for years, but they did not tell you the factor that they were married, or they had you under the illusion that they were divorced, all right, then technically you did not give informed consent. What happened was you were coerced into consent. All right? Technically, in that circumstance, you can actually go ahead and press charges on them for rape. All right? Because, yes, there are women out there who are able to be sexual predators just as much as men. All right? So understand, the withholding of information that could potentially change your decision-making capacity. That right there, that form of manipulation, prevents you from being able to give informed consent. All right? Because ultimately, if you knew that they were married, if you had the full understanding that they were married, would you be willing to take that risk? I mean, think about it. First thing, if they're married and you're dating somebody that's married and you knew that they were married, you do understand what the potential outcomes of that is when their, significant other that they're married to tries to hunt you down and fucking kill you. You brought it on yourself, right? All right. So another thing to understand about that. Preventing you from having the full details to be able to make an informed decision can actually go ahead and be used against the person that withheld pertinent information that could have prevented you from being able to make a fully informed decision. All right? Ultimately, they could have put you in harm's way by doing that. All right? So, let's say, for example, all right, the example, you go to a club, all right? So you're at a club that they serve alcohol, you have to be 21 to get in, all right? You go to that club. You are thinking that you are in a room full of consenting adults, all right? So, ultimately, you have somebody that tries to go ahead and, whether you try to, approach somebody or they try to approach you, all right? Ultimately, you're under the assumption that because of the environment specifically designated to be child-free, that there are going to be no children there. All right? Ultimately, that right there, if there end up being any children there, that poses a problem. Because ultimately, somebody getting in there under false pretenses could end up causing a legal situation, not only for the individual that did not have informed, not able to give informed consent and being informed on the circumstances, but it also poses a legal problem for the establishment because of the factor that that establishment was supposed to go ahead and make sure that nobody that falls under the legal criteria of being in such an establishment is in such an establishment, therefore going ahead and, putting their clientele at risk, all right? Or their customers. That being said, if you are lied to and coerced into a situation that the other party intentionally withheld information that would have altered the decision that you ended up making in that situation, you are not liable or at fault because that person took away your capacity to give informed consent by coercing consent. Do you understand? It's kind of like the same thing, when it comes to reproductive coercion. Like, say, for example, you're in a situation that you're about to sleep with somebody, and they say, oh, I'm on birth control, so we don't need to use a condom. You take them at their word. But they lied. They're not on birth control. Ultimately, when it comes to that child, you have an argument in court because they lied to you about the circumstances of their birth control. All right? Or, for example, if somebody claimed that they got a vasectomy, and literally the only thing that allows any type of lack of use of contraceptives, like the person saying, the only way that sexually anything is happening is if you have any condoms. But you end up saying to the person, oh, we don't need to use a condom. I got a vasectomy. So ultimately, there is no potential chance of, child reproduction happening from any type of sexual encounter. But you lie about getting said vasectomy, then you are coercing consent. At that point, you are committing an act of rape. You understanding now?